those who showed no time.
Yeah, so Dani and I decided we're going to switch things up. And normally Dani is the presenter. Tonight, I'm taking the reins. So you guys have been staring at the same screen for a while here, but I just wanted to kind of go over what this is. So we have an in-person event coming up in Northern California, Sunnyvale, in March on the 7th and 8th. And Dani's going to be presenting strategies and cash flow using out-of-state rentals. And there's a QR code down there if you want to scan and register to join everybody. So to get us started, we are going to be talking tonight about EPP, extra principal payment. Like, what is EPP? How does EPP work? How does EPP benefit me? Why are there so many P's in EPP? Before the end of the webinar, you are going to be an EPP professional and you're going to be EPPing everywhere to all of your friends. I guarantee it. So before we get started, though, a little bit about me. My name's Jessica, and I'm a Southern California native. I've got 3 boys and a background in finance. I've been involved in the mortgage industry in one way or the other since about 2004. So I've seen a lot of things change, and this program I feel pretty passionate about. So I'm really excited to be able to share my knowledge and hopefully benefit you in a real meaningful way. So in order to pay off your mortgages, there's a few different ways that you can go about it. You can refinance. I'm sure you guys have all seen the ads for a 15-year mortgage or a 20-year mortgage. There's biweekly payments or lump sum payments. But tonight we're going to focus on the EPP, the extra principal payments. And Dani and I were talking when we were working on the slides for this, and he told me a story about when he first had learned about EPP, and he shared it with some friends. And I think it's relevant, and that you guys might learn a little something about how EPP affects people in a real way, in the real world. So I was going to have Dani tell you that story.
All right, thanks, Jessica, and thanks for putting this together. So my story of the EPP, or the extra principal payment, starts somewhere around 2009 or 2010. I'm hosting an in-person event in Silicon Valley. I'm bringing in this expert speaker to talk to the group about EPP and maybe altogether mortgage acceleration techniques. And the guy is phenomenal, right? He is very smart, very sharp, very really good at his numbers. He has just a very nice person too, but he has a very small flaw. He is not very good with explaining the concept. Not to mention that he complicates it. He complicated it because he added more features into this concept that Jessica is going to talk to you about tonight. And I'm sitting there, this is 2009 or 10, front row, because I always like to sit front row and really get things in. And I'm sitting there like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is amazing. Why is it so complicated? It's amazing, complicated. I get a little bit obsessed, right? I don't normally get obsessed about this stuff, but for the next 3 weeks, I sit down with myself and I research. I probably can't do many other things beyond the normal stuff. And I run numbers and I use Excels and I read and I test it and I check and I test it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand what the EPP is, the extra principal payment concept is. I have no idea why the other guy, nice guy, complicated things. And I understand that I need to, now that I understand it a little bit better, that I need to tell others about it, mostly my clients, but so they can benefit from it as well if they want to. The first thing that I do is I call my one of my best friends in Silicon Valley, a couple, no kids, they live in Mountain View. I call them up once I'm done with my research, because this guy is a very math whiz kind of a person, and I know that if I run it through the crunching machine he is, and he'll give me a feedback, that'll be a nice kind of feedback to have if I'm not missing anything. So we talk Saturday night. We get on the phone. They live in Mountain View. I live 20 minutes from them in Cupertino. I get and I explain everything to them. what the concept is and how they can do it and what they should be doing it, if and not, and everything. And I also know these guys own their home, they're not investors, and they're also very laid back people. And I'm like, okay, now I doubt you'll do anything with it, but you know what? Here you have it, right? She calls me 4 days later, evening, and she's on the phone and she's crying. I mean, she's in tears, not necessarily not crying, but in tears, right? I can sense, I can hear something is off. And I said, what's going on? She says, you remember the conversation we had Saturday night? I said, of course I do. I said, okay, my husband, our friend, took the entire Sunday to crunch the numbers. And he got to the conclusion that if we will pay $500 a month, right, on their mortgage, they will finish up their mortgage payments. These guys are not sophisticated investors. They're just homeowners owning one property. They have 2 salaries, both work, no kids. And she goes, and he crunched the numbers. On Monday, we call our bank and already set things in motion to start using this idea that you told us. And I want to thank you about it. I'm like, okay, great. I love it. I thought they're not going to do anything. Why are you in tears? And she says, well, I'm in tears for 2 reasons. I'm in tears because the first thing is we found after running the numbers that we will save $135,000 by shortening the time of the mortgage and basically saving on interest. So $135,000, you know us, Danny, this is a lot of money for us. So I'm like very thankful just for that concept. And I said, great, why are you in tears? I get it. It's It says, well, the reason I'm in tears so much, and I want to thank you for, telling us about it, is because by doing what you suggested, we're going to be done paying a mortgage on our home when we are about 55, right? They're not exactly the same age, but they're close. She says, just about when we get to be 55, we're going to be done with our mortgage, which means by the time we hit retirement, and we want to retire at 60, that's our goal. We do not want to continue working. We want to retire at 60. One major payment, monthly payment, is not going to be there for us. That's the mortgage. And we were talking about it between us. What are we going to do with this mortgage payments once we retire? Because we want to retire. And how are we going to deal with it? So we were actually having this conversation without really knowing how to solve it. And you came and we didn't even ask you. And you came in and gave us this suggestion. And for that reason, I am so much in tears, because I can't thank you enough for opening our eyes to something that it's not complicated and it's going to benefit us tremendously, not just financially, but mostly the burden of that mortgage is not going to be there once we retire. So that was well over 10 years ago. Back then, their house was maybe $750,000. I think it's worth much more now, probably more than double. And they are on their track to be free and clear. And you know what? It's possible that they already are, or almost free and clear on that house just by using this technique. So that's kind of the power of this EPP. But now that we talked about it, I want to turn it back to Jessica, and she will explain to you how complicated it is not. Jessica, take it away.
Definitely not complicated. Thanks for the story. That's sort of what I was trying to get at when I was saying that this is a very simple process with huge benefits and anybody can do it. I don't know why more people don't. And I'm hoping that it's just because they don't know about it and we can maybe help spread the knowledge. So what is EPP? So EPP is extra principal payments, and they're voluntary additional payments that get applied directly towards the principal balance on your mortgage. And what you're wanting to do with this is to pay your mortgage off faster and reduce the amount of interest that you pay. And like I said, it's super easy and there's no cost to doing this. You don't have to contact your bank, like Dani said. You can just send in extra payments every month and mark that the extra funds are to be applied to your principal balance, and they will do that as your mortgage servicer. So I feel like in order to really fully grasp EPP, we really need to understand mortgage basics and how mortgages are structured. So banks aren't dumb, right? They know that the majority of the people that are taking out 30-year loans are not going to stay in those loans for the entire term. They're going to refinance or sell, or one of 100 other situations that would provide them getting out of this loan before that 30 years is up. So as sort of a little insurance policy, banks front load interest on to a mortgage. So I'm not sure if you've ever looked down at your payment slip when you get a new mortgage and your $2,000 payment, your $2,000 a month payment, and you notice that maybe only $200 of that is going towards principal and the other $1,800 is going towards interest. It will stay that way for probably the first half of your term of the loan. They make sure to schedule your payments very heavy on interest and very easy on principal balance reduction during that first half of the mortgage term. So to really illustrate EPP, we're going to do a little case study tonight, and I'm going to try and make this as simple as possible. I'm going to warn you, trigger warning, there's going to be a couple graphs, but stick with me. I promise I will make it as easy as possible. So here you are, Mr. and Mrs. Investor. You find a beautiful $400,000 rental property that you want to buy through Simply Do It. You put down your 25% and you take a 30-year mortgage, right? After your down payment, you're looking at a monthly payment of $1,850 roughly. And in this investment, you're getting $500 a month cash flow. Very common scenario for the investment properties that we handle on the day-to-day basis. So I wanted to take something that's very relevant to everyday investors. So doing the quick math on the cash flow, you're taking $500 and you're stuffing that in your pocket for 30 years. And that totals $180,000. And that sounds really great, right? But I'm curious what would happen if that $500 that you didn't even have before you owned that investment property was reinvested back using the EPP program. So like I said, here we have the 30-year mortgage plan on one side of your screen and the EPP on the other side. Your original payment was $1,850. You add in that $500 to make a total monthly payment of $2,350. And what that's going to do is lower your number of payments from 360 to 211. And that essentially shaves off 12 and a half years of your mortgage. And where EPP really gets interesting, because you're not making those mortgage payments for 12 and a half years, look at what it does to the total interest liability. You're starting off on your traditional 30-year mortgage plan, owing them $365,000 in interest. And just by using EPP, you can lower that to $195,000. And that's with zero money extra out of your budget at all, zero. So Jessica, I'm buying this investment property. I mean, I thought the point of having an investment property was cash flow, right? And you're right, it is. It's cash flow and it's passive income. But I'm going to show you how EPP can help you with that as well. So going back to our original 30-year plan of that $500 a month and $180,000 in your pocket, and comparing that to the extra principal payments. So for the first 17 and a half years, you're taking none of that $500. You're actually taking zero cash flow. But where EPP is great is once that mortgage is paid off, the rest of that 30-year term, that 12 and a half years early that you paid off your mortgage, you're going to be cashing checks for $2,350 a month. And that adds up really quick. As you can see, it's $353,000 compared to the $180,000 that you would have received just kind of going along with the plan. So not only does EPP give you an additional $173,000 versus the 30-year plan in cash flow, but you're also saving $170,000 in interest savings and shaving 12 and a half years off the life of your loan. So drum roll, total wealth increase just for that $500 a month in reinvestment, $343,000 of total wealth increased. It's phenomenal. Like it's almost impossible. You say it's so easy. Why doesn't everybody do this? And I ask myself that question all the time. And that's it, folks. I mean, it's so simple. I just don't know. I don't know how to complicate it more to make this webinar longer. So I know it's kind of heavy on numbers and graphs. And before we open it up to questions, there's a few downsides potentially that I want you to take into account. Of course, EPP is great, but with everything in life, moderation is key. So don't get crazy and spend all of your money paying off your mortgage and deplete your emergency fund. Don't pass up on other investment opportunities that might provide you with a higher return. Obviously, talk to your CPA or your financial advisor, your neighbor, whoever it is that you go to for financial advice to make sure that you're making the right decisions for your individual scenario. Again, that's it, folks. I know it was a little fast, and if we have any questions, I would be happy to clarify or go back to relook at some of those slides and see maybe how I can share, what EPP can do for you. Do we have anything? I think I have it opened up so that everyone's able to unmute themselves. I am, or you can put a question in the chat if you would like. Does anyone have any
question? I see one in the chat already saying a way to complicate it a bit. What happens when the mortgage rate is significantly lower? What happens is the mortgage rate significantly, well,
it still works. So this is the great part about EPP. It doesn't matter what your interest rate is. It doesn't matter if you're investing $500 or if you're investing $10. Every bit that goes down to paying off your principal balance is going to save you in a compounding manner on your loan and your interest payments that you make.
may I add something to that?
Sure, please.
The total sum will be much lower. The difference will be much lower. Because what you do in this way, you earn money based on the interest rate. You like get interest rate for your $500 per month.
Okay.
Yep.
So if you had an interest rate that was lower, you're going to be making more cash flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have more cash flow. Then you can put that towards your EPP, and it works out.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep. The one thing I like about this, and just so you can maybe switch to remind about the events, about how to get in touch with us. Sure. While I say something here, but the one thing I like about the EPP concept is very flexible. Well, first of all, it's not something everybody has to use. It's a tool, right? And when I say flexible, the one thing is, for example, let's say in this example, you have a cash flow of $500. You can say that, within out of the 500, I'll put 150 into a reserve, 150 go once a month and for a nice dinner, and 200 will stay will be paid regularly towards the principal payment, right? So I'm not using entire 500. Obviously it's not going to be as fast as the 500, but it's something you play, and then you can say, what, I am at a point in my life that that I'm still accumulating. I need every cash flow. I don't want to put $500 now, but I will be able to put maybe 700 when the cash flow, increases over time at a later point, right? The whole point is like saying, okay, I want to get to the point primarily that the house is free and clear, right? That's kind of the main, like not the only reason, but one of the main reasons. Of course, saving the interest, I think it's more of a like a byproduct in the process. And also you can say, you know what, I have a vacancy this month. I'm not going to pay the EPP. So you can always, like, there's nothing sophisticated about using this tool. More, a better month, you put more money, a worse month, you put less money, you stop one month, you add, etc. So super simple in that, respect to just a tool that helps with that. Yeah.
Right. And I also like it because when we had first started this, we mentioned refinancing, right? So with a refinance, you're going to have closing costs, you're going to have lender fees, you're going to have an appraisal, and you're going to be stuck in that loan. So life happens and you maybe can't afford that 15-year payment any longer. You're still going to be held liable for that. With an EPP, you have the flexibility to change that from month to month. Add more if, maybe you have it that month, or less if you need it for your budget. Yeah, so if there's no other questions, please feel free to reach out. We would love to talk to you guys. You can reach us at our email, meet@simplydoit.net, as well as simplydoit.net, which is our website, and reistart.com. So again, please reach out. We'd love to talk to you. Let's get you started investing. And it looks like we have a question. You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like.
Hi. Yeah, thank you
Hi.
for this information. Can you hear me
Sure.
okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so I have a quick question on the EPP side. So let's say you have what you were saying on the 30-year mortgage, right? You ended up leveraging the EPP and ended up, cutting your interest rate into almost half, as you've shown in that presentation. Would you
Yes.
recommend going back and refinancing your mortgage at that point to actually have it for a 50-year mortgage? And, can you, point out any benefits to that, or if there's any advantage of refinancing at that point to, help you, minimize much your interest rate much more than that, and ended up finishing the mortgage faster?
Sure. I mean, and that's a good question. I think that it's really on an individual basis, because interest rates fluctuate every day, sometimes multiple times a day. So I feel like if there's a huge gap in between the mortgage interest rate that you have right now and what you think you can get and afford on a 15-year payment, it might be worth it depending on the lending costs. And just keep in mind, again, you're tied into the 15-year payment, but you will have a lower interest rate. So that could benefit you in the long run, as long as you're comfortable with the additional fees and the additional higher payment. So there definitely is a case for refinancing under the right circumstances.
Cool, thank you.
Sure. Is there anything else? No? Okay, so just a reminder, our in-person event is coming up March 7th in Sunnyvale. March 7th is going to be in English. March 8th is going to be for our Hebrew speakers. And Dani's going to be presenting all about enhancing returns and cash flow, out-of-state rental properties, and everything that you're going to need to know about that. So we're really excited to be back in person, and we hope to see everybody soon. So I know this one was short and sweet, but I'm really happy you guys took the time out, and I appreciate you showing up. And I hope that we were able to shed a little light on EPP and how you can use it. Do you have another question?
It's not. Oh,
That was just a clap.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
thank you. Thank you, Jessica.
All right.
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much, everyone.
Have a terrific night. Bye-bye.
Thanks. You too. Bye.